Hi, we're Dry Cleaning, and this is the LSQ podcast.
What's up? It's Jenny LSQ. I want to begin with a small excerpt from the interview with Dry Cleaning, where frontwoman Florence Shaw is responding to a question I asked about the hyper-specificity of her lyrics, which is one of my favorite things about Dry Cleaning's music.
I'm always attracted to anything that has like any kind of dual memory or feeling attached to it, like a sweet memory being destroyed or even like made slightly rarer or spicier because of some information that was found out later, or you know what I mean? Like I just love little things like that. And other people aren't going to know about this talcum powder that I'm thinking of, but I think you just also have to trust, like, feel like people are going to feel it though. I don't have to tell them. I feel like they're going to feel it. And even if that's just kind of nonsense, it is important to have that faith when you're making something that you don't have to dumb everything down and you don't have to explain absolutely everything to the audience. I do feel like people pick things up. I feel like people get it still. And that's a really satisfying thing. Like you have a lot of faith in the audience and like believe in just the perceptiveness of the audience.
And as you'll hear in episode 134 of the LSQ podcast, UK post-punk band Dry Cleaning, including Flo and guitarist Tom Dowse, drummer Nick Buxton, and bassist Lewis Maynard, have more to say about the idea of trust in the perceptiveness of the audience, and also trust in each other as bandmates. And we talk more about Secret Love, their brilliant third full-length, and I think their best album yet. And we zoom out to hear about their creative histories individually and about how they came together as Dry Cleaning. Here we go. Look at that. We're all here. It's a mosaic of Dry Cleaning. I love it.
That's us.
Nice to meet y'all. I've been loving Secret Love and so glad we got this together.
Thank you.
Oh,
Sweet. Thank you.
yeah. Thanks for having us.
Of course. How is what day of the week is it? Tuesday. It's evening over there. It's morning over here. Goddamn time difference. How was your Tuesday?
It was all right.
Chill.
So here on the LSQ podcast, I like to go back with folks to times even before their project started and how they first got into being creative and making music. And so we're going to do a little bit of kind of going around individually to talk about life before y'all met each other. Nick, I'm going to start with you. Tell me a bit about just your earliest creative inclinations in life when you were a kid. When did you first feel a creative urge?
I think probably it was musical, just listening to the music, I think probably that my parents were listening to, particularly my mum, because my dad listened to a lot of classical music. So when you're a kid, it was kind of torture. But my mum had quite broad taste, but then I think she just like listened to a lot of the music that many people listened to in the kind of 60s and 70s. And I used to drum along to a lot of the music when I was really young. I used to play on the arm of our sofa, and I made myself some drumsticks from bamboo canes. And I wore a massive hole in the arm of the sofa, just kind of playing along to things and just generally annoying the hell out of everyone. Yeah, that was kind of that. And then I kind of graduated I made my own drum kit in the garage from like various kind of bits that were like hanging around. And then because my sister was playing clarinet, I managed to convince my parents to kind of get me music lessons, but they kind of foolishly thought that I would take to playing the violin, which didn't really work. So
A hole in the couch hadn't taught them the lesson about
yeah, it didn't quite work out.
Sensible though, because parents shouldn't buy a kid a drum kit. That is a loud thing to bring into the house.
It was a sensible thing, yeah. And I played a variety of instruments until I bought my own drum kit when I was about 20. I sort of was working a lot and I saved up, and I didn't actually, have a drum kit until then, but I'd been
Wow.
playing in bands until, for a long time, since I was about sort of 13.
Did it feel like you had a certainty about playing music, amidst whatever else you might have had to kind of fake that you were interested in doing to calm down your parents, that that you had a commitment to like, I'm going to find a way to do music as sort of my main thing?
Yeah, actually, I think it's almost like a malfunction in my brain. I've never really thought about doing anything else. It's not like a drive. It's not like I'm going to make this thing happen no matter what. It's not like that at all. It's almost like, well, I don't really know. I don't really know what else I would do. And I managed to get away with that really until I was probably about in my late 20s, early 30s, when I realized I really had to kind of sort of support myself. Yeah, sorry, I've always supported myself, but I just mean, yeah, I needed to maybe take something else a little more seriously because music wasn't, making me any money. And that's when I started making furniture. Yeah. It's not like I really think about music as a career. It's just like a sort of, I don't know, you just do it. And I've always wanted to do it. Yeah.
On my screen, I'm going counterclockwise amongst y'all. So, Tom, you're next counterclockwise for me. Same thing. Tell me about when you first started to feel like a creative human.
I can remember being super, super young and just loving drawing, and was very encouraged by my parents who they weren't really from an artistic background at all. And I think they were amazed by it. So they were like really encouraging. And I think I remember that feeling of pleasing my mum and her being really happy and thinking like, I'm just going to do that then. So I was just always, drawing was like, it's just like a way to be, if you know what I mean. It's like a way to live. Like it guided everything. I remember teachers used to say things like, what are you any good at? And people would say, Tom's really good at drawing. So it becomes like your identity, do you know what I mean? And that got me all the way through to through my GCSEs and I wasn't very good at school just because I couldn't really see the point of school.
What kind, I mean, what kind of drawing? I'm sure it evolved over time, but yeah, what sort of became your style, or what sort of things were you drawn to? No pun intended.
I mean, at first, kind of everything really, anything. Because when you're like, I'm pretty sure I was drawing when I was like 3. Do you know what I mean? Like avidly. So kind of everything really, just stuff I saw on TV, just fantasy things, and then comics. I think a really big thing for me was something like Tintin. When I started looking at Tintin, I was so amazed by how precise it was. And it's one of those things when you start drawing and you're a kid and you're focusing on how does that car look like it's going around a corner? Like it really looks like it. And you start looking at the way the car is shifting its weight and stuff like that. And then you start trying to do that too. And then like when you get a little bit older, like I was obsessed with manga. Like I couldn't believe how cool it was. And all your art teachers are saying like, this is a big mistake. Art teachers hate manga. But you're like, no, you don't understand. It's perfect. But basically drawing got me all the way to art college. And then I only really started playing. I wasn't really into music that much. Like Nick said, my mum and dad played music, things like my mum was really like a passionate music listener. So we grew up listening to things like Tracy Chapman and Suzanne Vega, Michael Jackson, George Michael, things like that would be quite prominent in the house. But I wasn't even really aware of that being like a thing. It was just on. So I was a bit of a late bloomer with music really, and it wasn't until I sort of started like the Britpop thing. I was just the right age for Britpop to be in my face because it was like on TV basically. I had a bit of a light bulb moment with music there. I realised like, I don't know why, but I just realised that's what I want to do. If not a career, then I want to be in a band. I want to play music because it just looked like the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
After you had started playing guitar, you started to think that?
No. I didn't even have a guitar then. I was just like, I remember seeing Johnny Greenwood play on MTV. Radiohead were playing live in Barcelona on MTV, and I didn't even have MTV. Someone at school. I used to give a kid a VHS tape and they would tape stuff off MTV for me and I'd go home and watch it. And I worshipped this tape. There were things I did, like Buddy Holly by Weezer was on it, the video to that and things like that. So like I kind of thought like it just looked like the most exciting thing ever. It looked like it would solve all my problems. Do you know what I mean? Like being an introverted loser. Being in a band is going to solve all of that.
And it did.
It did. But yeah, I didn't start playing the guitar till a lot later because I had to like save up for one, and I didn't really because my relationship with the guitar is quite strange because I sort of really avidly loved it, but I wasn't really doing it properly for ages. And it wasn't really till I dropped out of uni the first time I joined a hardcore band, and I learned to play a bit more properly then from the guitarist that was already in that band. He was kind of like, I managed to sort of pretend that I knew what I was doing, but I just copied what he was. He was kind of telling me what to do, and I would just do it. And playing with a drummer like that, you get pretty tight pretty quick playing with drummers. So I kind of went from like 0 to 60 quite quickly in a sort of hobby sense. And then while we were doing hardcore bands and stuff like that, I got my degree in illustration. And then that took me to move to London and then eventually joined the Royal College to do my master's degree, which is where I'm at Flow. By that point, I was kind of doing bands just as hobbies, really. Didn't really think about doing it as a career at all, especially because the drawing career that I had chosen was also going badly. So I thought the worst thing you can do now is add another creative failure to your career, to your CV. But yeah, that kind of brings me roughly up to date, because then I met Nick and Lewis through my girlfriend who went to school with Flo. And by this point, I was sort of teaching in an art school. I was teaching at a university where Flo was working too. And we started doing the band as a hobby, really. And then just by literally the sheer length of time, I'd played the guitar quite a lot by then and was a bit more confident about it. But my playing has accelerated a lot since we started. I guess that brings us up to date.
Nice. Lewis, you're next at bat.
I wish I got like forced to do music lessons as a kid. I didn't have any of that. I was really, really shy as a kid, like painfully shy.
That is hard to believe.
Yeah. I was like, I'd be like crying in the corner, kind of shy, like hiding. But when I was 14, I started getting into what we had over here, which is like UK Garage, which is kind of which you'd have on like pirate radio stations. And I think my dad saw that and ran with it because he used to be a DJ. He still is a DJ now, but in his 20s, he was a DJ as like his job. So he bought me a set of Techniques, like turntables, for Christmas when I was 14. And then for a couple of years, I was just really heavily into buying records. So I'd go into town a lot, go to like Black Market and kind of just buy UK Garage and hip hop and then kind of just DJ to myself. And it was really weird. I kind of missed the kind of going to clubs, or as in at that point, I think some people in my school were going underage to clubs. But I kind of missed it a bit. And then when I was 16, I went to music college as a DJ. And my dad had got a bass from his brother. He played bass when he was younger. And I kind of borrowed it and I never touched it and I hated it. And then one day someone from college came over and was like, "Oh, you play bass?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "You should do." So I kind of just started playing bass. And then about a month later, I got a bass clef tattoo because I was like, "I fucking love this." And then, which I think is like, it's a good, like, it's a good like moral for life or whatever. Kind of like, if you get a tattoo of it, you have to kind of back it up. So then I had to keep playing bass. I remember at college, like we were doing like these like live recording things, and the teacher was like, "Oh, you've got a bass clef tattoo. Come up and play bass." And I just couldn't play. He was like, "Just play an open E string." I was like, "I've got no idea what that is." But I had like a tattoo of it, and then I felt like I kept falling into. There wasn't many bass players around, so I just kept getting asked to be a bass player. It kept happening. So like when I was 17, I joined a band. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I kind of was in that for like a year or two. There was kind of like a very like at the driving kind of like influence kind of band. And then I went to Goldsmiths and I met Nick. At this point, I'd been kind of like been playing for a couple of years, so I could kind of play a bit. I've been to a bass college as well, so I could kind of, I learned a lot of things really quickly to the point where they kind of left my brain very quickly as well. So I kind of like learned to sight read to a high level, but it went straight away. And I kind of like learned some weird techniques. And then I met Nick, we played in a band, and this year is our anniversary of being a rhythm section for 20 years.
Oh, wow. Happy anniversary, y'all.
Thank you very much. We played in the band together for about 10 years and we've been in lots of projects together. But then that kind of thing of, at that point, I was really enjoying playing bass, but there was just a lack of bass players in London. So I kept getting asked to do different kind of shows. At one point, I was playing with a Brazilian artist called Sibeli, and I'd be doing lots of kind of indie stuff. And they kind of kept me busy quite a lot. And I kind of learned through playing. And I was saying to Flo the other day, like, I definitely didn't have a musical ear until I feel like I got it in my like later 20s. It took ages to kind of like click in. Like I'd be learning songs, and my partner at the time, she'd be showing me, she couldn't play bass, but she'd be showing me what notes they were. And I could replay, I could physically do it, but I couldn't hear kind of what it was. And then one day it kind of just like kind of clicked in. I think in my late 20s after gigging for about 1,000 times. Yeah, and then that kind of brings us up to dry cleaning.
This is a random thing to go back to, but did you say your dad is still a DJ?
Let's not talk about it. uh,
Okay. I'm
no,
intrigued.
no,
I'm
he
intrigued.
is.
I'll save that for a sidebar.
He's got some weekends he's DJing like 2 or 3 times. Like the other week we were playing and we weren't on stage until like 11 o'clock, and I was like, that's so late. And he was like, yeah, I might come. He's like, I'm DJing at like 3 in the morning, and I was like, he's 70 as well this year. He does like a lot of like soul and kind of like rare groove. He's got an impeccable music collection. Yeah. So we always had good music around the house, and very like bass heavy music around the house. And then I kind of started doing like bass heavy genres. So I kind of feel like it's kind of natural for me to be a bass player.
That's amazing. Flo, you're up.
Yeah, like Tom, I used to draw all the time. When I was a kid, I did a lot of drawings that would have like a caption underneath. Like I would almost write like a story and then draw the story. I used to do that all the time from really, really super young, 2 or 3, whatever, like baby years. And I come from a family of artists. So I was massively, massively encouraged all the time to be creative. And really, my parents taught me to draw much earlier than school. That's what we would spend our spare time kind of doing at home. And my dad, in particular, massively encouraged me to have like special interests in very specific things all the time. When I was a kid, I would get really, really into quite specific subjects, like was really, really into like cows for about 4 years. And I would make like projects about them in my own time. Like after school, I would go home and do my own projects about non-school related subjects, like cows.
Like like where you sort of make up stories, or you were like learn research. Was it like fact based or fiction based?
All of the above. So it would be stories, also like fact files, illustrations, just everything. I look at them now and they're kind of quite remarkable in a way because they're really extracurricular, but nobody was making me do it. So I obviously just had like this drive to write about things and draw about my special stuff from super young. But my dad was in a band when I was born. He plays guitar and drums and harmonica and he can sing and all sorts. So he's the musical one, really. But I never really had an interest in joining a band all throughout my youth, really. I was always just into art, like I was going to be an artist or a graphic designer or something like that. That was always my very focused goal. And yeah, so my brother kind of gave me my music taste in a way. He gave me a load of Smith's records when I was about 8 and things like that. It shaped me a lot, all of that kind of thing. And yeah, like soft cell and stuff. He was massively, massively into music, and his bedroom was next door to mine, so I could hear what he was listening to. And then he would quite literally give me things, different records. It was only 18 months difference, but yeah, he basically informed the whole of my music taste. And I was really fanatical about a load of bands. I was like a really scary Strokes fan, like one of those. Yeah, like I was one of those for sure. Like
What made it scary?
just the intensity of the obsession. Yeah. Yeah, I was a dangerous character. Like in Is This It? Like the all the photos of them. And there's that guy in there who was their guitar teacher.
JP.
Oh yeah, JP Bowers. Oh, I chased him down a street once because I saw him and I obviously like immediately recognized him from the thing. And I kind of chased him in and he was ordering like a burrito. It was in New York. I went on like a family holiday for like 4 days or something when I was 17. It was like this massive deal. I don't think I'd been on a plane before. And I saw him and like chased him into he was buying like a burrito or something. I was like, hello.
What a dream find. 4 days in New York and you meet this guy.
Yeah. Also, this is not Strokes related. Jack Lewis, Jeffrey Lewis's brother, was working in not in the Met, like behind the desk. And I was like, hello. And I knew who he was. And he was like, whoa. Like I was just this absolute freak running around New York, like chasing all these people. But anyway, that's by the by.
You knew you were going to New York and you were already this
Yeah.
huge fan of the
Yeah.
Strokes and that stuff. So
Yeah.
you had your antenna up.
Also very, very observant. Too like freakishly observant. But
Also a super recognizer.
yes. Maybe that could be another sidebar. Super recognizer skills. But yeah, so it's like hugely into music, but never wanting to be in a band. I was just a fan, capital letters, fan. Very proud of being a fan, happy being a fan. It suited me well.
You were going to gigs at home and stuff like that. You did.
Yeah, exactly. Like all throughout my teen years, like after school, I was going to loads of gigs in London and lying about my age to get in and all that kind of thing. So yeah, was just making art and really fulfilled and happy doing that and doing odd jobs. I never made much money from it at that time. And yeah, and I met Tom at the Royal College, like you said. And yeah, and then like even a few, it was like a few years after we graduated, I guess. We graduated in like 2012. And then he asked me if I wanted to kind of like come and like try working on this project with them. Even six, we'd already known each other for like 7 years or something. So very slow burn, all of it, you know. And I'd just been through absolutely horrific breakup. So I said, yeah, to being the front person of a band.
And what made you think to ask Florence if she would come do this thing? Like just a sense that it could be cool, that there was something there.
Yeah, just kind of just that really. I think once we graduated from the Royal College, like Flo was someone I'd meet up with quite a bit, and we'd talk about the comics we were making, or I was writing short stories as well, so I'd show her them and see what she'd think. And I always liked the way Flo used words in her drawings as well. Like she had a really good eye for a really good eye and ear for the way words are odd. It can be odd. And we used to have like tutorial groups at the Royal College, and I was just think like it was really interesting what she was doing, and she was also really supportive of what I was doing as well. So we would meet up after we graduated and talk about stuff, and then I think it was like we met up, and she was like, "What are you up to at the moment?" And I said, "I'm jamming with Lewis and Nick, who Flo did know but hadn't seen for a long time." And she was like, "Oh, really? Like Lewis and Nick?" I was like, "Yeah." I think I showed her some demos, and she just seemed into it, and I don't know, just kind of like. I've always kind of done bands as a social thing, really. Like they're a great like. I sometimes struggle to just hang out with people. Like and I kind of need. I need something to do like a board. You need to do board games or something. I don't know. But bands are a great way for me to socialize. So I kind of was. I was thinking about that more. Like it'd be good to hang out with. I could see like the four of us hanging out. Like would be cool.
Did you guys articulate kind of what sort of band you wanted to be, or what, or did you just start playing and it came out?
Just started playing, really. I think. I think quite quickly the fact that all four of us are doing one thing that helps. Like the fact it becomes a bit post-punky at the start is kind of inevitable because that's such a like Lewis is like he is bass. He's got a bass clef tattoo. Like that lends itself to post-punk, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? So it was a natural thing.
There was like some slight bonding over bands that we were listening to at the same time. We was chatting about like REM and like the Necessaries and kind of like B-52s, but that was kind of as far as it went. Kind of like still to this day, there wasn't much of a plan. There's never been a plan.
Like sometimes it comes up that you guys were trying singing like before I joined. Like what were you singing?
It was literally like 30 seconds, I think, wasn't it? Like you literally just opened your mouth and it was like just a noise came out and you're like, nope.
Yeah, I can't remember what words we were singing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I'm so
what the
intrigued.
plan was, or
Yeah.
Well, I think we had like a brief idea that we would all sing to kind of maybe take the pressure off one person doing it, or like I don't think there was a lot of thought put into how the lyrics would come about, or anything like that. It was just like, I think we felt that the music we'd written deserved some sort of top line to it. I don't think we wanted to be an instrumental band, or that we could have been. I think we felt that the music we'd written needed some lyrics or something on top of it. And so we did talk quite a bit about who we might invite to kind of try out. And I recall that we were drawing a lot of blanks, like we didn't really know what to do about it, and that the idea of us singing kind of came around as a bit of a like last resort. But then Tom suggested Flo, and I think immediately that just felt right. I think people have asked us in the past, like, oh, well, but why would you invite someone that's never sung before, or why would you, why would you do that? And I can't honestly say why. I didn't really see any problem asking someone that had never done it before to do it.
I guess it's only weird because of our age, right? If you're like
Mm.
17,
Yeah.
no one's like, but
Yeah, maybe that's
you've
it.
never been in a band before.
Mm.
It's like, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
Like most people, like unless you've been in several bands,
Mm.
it is your first band, and like you haven't
Yeah,
done it before. But it's
yeah,
just, I guess it's just because of our age. But like also like why should that be weird? I feel like more people should start bands
yeah.
like later in their lives. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
what is the difference really? It's kind of interesting.
There was also something very attractive about having to explain to someone who hadn't been gigging like the rest of us for like 15 years why you do stupid things that you do, kind of like why you take half a day of work to go to sound check, kind of like, and you kind of like lose all this money and kind of like, and all the kind of like dragging gear around London, and kind of like we tried to do things as simply as possible in the early days, because you're trying to explain to someone who hasn't done that before why you do it, and you
Mm.
can't really justify it. So a lot of the sound kind of came from that. We rehearsed in like a very small room. It's very tight. The music kind of had to be a particular way so we could actually hear it. And we had quite small goals. Like, well, we had no goals at the beginning. We were never going to play a show. It was just kind of like, if we can make something in this room sound good together.
I think that's really important, actually. This you've kind of hit the nail on the head there, because it was the antithesis of what people might think about being in a band is like when you're in your 30s, because we were trying to get away from the idea that it would be some kind of career, or that we were doing it because it was like we were trying to give it one last shot of like making a band happen and making money or whatever. Like it was the opposite of that. It's why we were rehearsing in Lewis's mum's garage. I think we were actually trying to get back to something that it felt like being in a band when you were 17 again. Like Tom says, it's just hanging around with your friends. And I think that's also one of the reasons why it felt like okay to get Flo in to do it, because I had stopped kind of playing in bands maybe a year or two before that, because I was just getting a bit bored of it, like it just felt like I've kind of been there, done that. I was making a bit of electronic music, and I was kind of thinking about my job, like more seriously. And so if I'm going to do a band, I want it to be fun. I want it to be like fun again. I want to enjoy it. And you don't want to feel like you're retracing your steps, which is why it makes sense to do something you've never done before and get someone in that, was going to bring something really different.
But for you, Flo, was there any, I mean, as you say, like setting the scene of having gone through a terrible breakup. And so everything, you're just sort of like, who am I? Or just like, I'm ready to fuck shit up, kind of in a general way. But
Mm.
was there any struggle for you, even within that, of being like, I'm the singer, or I'm the front person. How is this going to work? Or what am I going to do? How did you figure out what you were going to do, this distinctive style that you have?
Well, the stakes were so low, really, because it was just an audience of three who were all also playing. So there's a nice thing about that where everyone has skin in the game. The nice thing about rehearsal is everyone is playing. So no one's going to like laugh at you, because that would be really weird, because then you just laugh at them back. Like it's not, do you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? It's not like an audition. It's like you get out of it what you put in. So if anyone's kind of half-arsing it or like doing anyone down, it's a bit of a weak position. You know what I mean? So it was, I was very nervous, but mainly maybe just nervous of the social aspect. I get nervous about social things generally. So I was really nervous, but I don't know how much of it was like, oh my God, I'm going to be the lead singer of a band, more than, oh my God, I'm going to be in a room with three people, you know, like who I don't know really, really, really well. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if the fear came just as much from that as from the kind of front person kind of scary concept thing, because I think I knew straight away like the only way to make this interesting and the only way I can actually offer something of value is to be myself, including the bits of myself that are not up for this. Like, you know, I have to put all of that into it because that's what I can offer. I can't offer like Benson Boone backflip, fucking vocal gymnastics. Kind of, like that's not. I can't do that at all. Like no amount of just it's just not within me.
Album 4.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
No.
yeah,
setting it up
yeah.
so it's a
You said
massive
you couldn't do
surprise.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the groundwork starts here. No, but you know, like I completely that I don't have that, but I did think like if there's a way to bake who I actually am into it, then that's something to offer. That's worth doing. That's worth existing. So I think like in a sense I didn't doubt I could do it. I thought, yeah, I can see this. This could be cool just because it's weird, but also yeah, just general social anxiety. But then of course later I realized that performing on stage is like the least social thing in the universe. So actually it's really good for me.
Yeah, you're like, I don't have to interact. I'm just up here. But
Exactly.
in terms of your actual style, like this
Yeah.
the talking,
Oh yeah.
was that how did that become the thing? I mean, were you just sort of trying it on and then that just felt like, wait, this feels great.
I think it started as part and parcel of trying to just be myself. It seemed like the most accessible thing to do, the most me thing I could do, the thing that I felt some comfort with. I enjoy talking. I enjoy kind of the ups and downs of speech. I like pauses, you know, I like all that stuff and always enjoyed it. It's just a part of everyday life, the talking bit. So I guess I was just thinking, cool, like I think I have some skill at that, you know, maybe question mark, question mark. So that's why I started there. And also I sort of thought, I think I can sing. Maybe like I don't, you know, I don't think I'm like tone deaf or anything, but I don't think that's the most interesting thing I could do right now as well. It was like that, it was that kind of thought, a bit like the thing of what can I offer, rather than like trying to be like a front person that I can picture in my mind. It was all just thinking, what can I do well? And somehow the answer was to talk. And also like caring about the writing a lot. I think I was like, really want people to hear the words. I really want the words to be the thing rather than the medium necessarily.
At those early rehearsals, I know you were coming to it with some source material that was not your own words and some that was your own words. Is that right?
Well, actually, the first rehearsal, it was so many crazy scraps. It was like loads of stuff I'd written in my phone. So my own writing, but also overheard things or little bits of text from adverts or things I'd seen like on a big plastic sign, like tied to some railings or whatever. Like just stuff I'd seen around. And then also like YouTube comments and things that I had collected. All the stuff, I already had it. I didn't collate any of it for the rehearsal. I had it already for no specific reason. I'd just been collecting it. So then when Tom asked me, it was like, I do kind of have this enormous, pointless stash of writing and words. And that was also another reason why it was like, "Oh, I should go because it is a bit serendipitous that I happen to have all this stuff." So, it like made it harder to say no as well, because it was like I actually have loads of writing and collected stuff.
But I mean, but pointless, but not pointless, because the point of collecting that stuff was you liked words. You
Mm.
just sort of, there's certain magic to a turn of phrase
Yeah,
that just did a little ooh. It was something for you that you just felt like there was a sparkle to it, and you wanted to save it because it was like a just a little joy.
totally. Like not pointless to me, like big, lots of points, pointy to me,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I suppose in the grand scheme of things, someone else might think of it as pointless, like a collection of like bottle caps or something. Gives a lot of joy to the collector, but someone might come and put them all in the bin, which would be terrible.
I can't help but wonder, though, going back to when you were talking about like that as a little kid, doing these drawings with the captions under them or
Oh
something,
yeah,
if
yeah, yeah.
that's kind of like the thing that first made you conscious of a few words, a turn of phrase, or something
Mm.
that was like a little bit sticky. Was it ever since
Oh
then that
yeah.
you were like, ooh, I like that sentence, or what is that?
I think it's just a constant thing throughout my whole life. I used to tape a lot of TV, like on like a Fisher Price cassette recording thingy, just the audio of TV, which I don't know what I was doing with all of that, but I used to do that all the time. Yeah, for a long time I characterized myself as a drawer, like, oh, I draw, like I've just fallen into doing this writing thing. But my mom the other day was like, nah, like you have always written stuff at the same time. You just weren't focusing on it. It was like a thing you did on the side, but ever since you were really small. Um, that was kind of nice to hear. It was like, oh, right. Okay, this isn't just some random thing that I'm doing.
So once it was locking in and it was like, okay, this is going to work, and you had this role now as,
Mm.
the singer, front person, whatever, but also the lyricist.
Mm.
Like, did that change what became your practice of how you put together the words for dry cleaning songs? Like, what is your writing practice now when it comes to amassing lyrics for songs?
It's always been much the same. There's stuff going on in the background of me just writing as and when on the bus, wherever, when things come up, which tends to happen if I'm idle. If we're very, very busy, I don't tend to think of so many ideas, or I don't write so much. But when I get little bits of time where there's no external pressures of any kind, I write a lot. And that'll just be based on my own thoughts and things I'm consuming and things I'm seeing and feelings, of course. But also this time, this most recent album, Secret Love, I wrote a lot in the rehearsal room in direct response to the guys playing. So kind of forced out a lot more writing, if you know what I mean. Like kind of set the parameters of, right, I'm hearing the music right now. What's my response to it right now in this moment? I did that a lot more than before, rather than bringing things already, bringing scraps and assembling. I wrote much more straight off the cuff, or even just into the mic when we were demoing. Let me grow and you'll see the fruit is like that. I just wrote a lot of that off the top of my head, and then kept it, which is not what I used to do. I used to come with a million jigsaw pieces, and carefully kind of assemble them, which I still do a lot of, but there's much more immediate type of writing that goes on now.
So with a song like Cruise Ship Designer,
Yeah.
which is it's so conceptual, and
Mhm.
it feels like it's the whole shebang, how did that come together?
So that I wrote in the room straight off the top of my head, and it never changed after that. I mean, maybe minuscule things about it changed. A line or two moved forwards or backwards in the song or whatever. But I just wrote all of that down onto the page in the room. There's a bunch of songs like that. Half Pint, My Soul Half Pint is like that. I just sang it into the phone. Just pretty much, if you heard that recording, it's the song. It sounds very much like the song. And there's like a few little edits or whatever, but it's basically the song. So that happened a few times on this record, which is also usually it's just like usually that's because you've been writing a lot and then you get a free one, that isn't like painstaking.
So the guys are playing, and you're sitting there sort of taking it in for a while. And then when you feel ready, you're just like, I'm a cruise ship designer.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly that. And a while can be like 30 seconds or, it's very, when it happens that way, it's really immediate. There isn't loads of rumination going on. I mean, other songs, there's tons of rumination, Blood, or like even Hit My Head All Day. There was tons of rumination about that song and endless edits and moving things around and millions of different bits of writing and getting rid of stuff. And it's like the editing is really the bit I like the best, actually, more than the writing. The editing is like the fun bit. The writing is what you do so that you can have like a really good editing sesh of like deleting all the crap and taking stuff out you don't like or yeah.
So it must be interesting for the rest of y'all to just you're playing and you feel like you've got something good going with the rest of the song, and then Flo opens her mouth and whatever comes out, and it just, it's a whole story. Or
It's my favorite element of dry cleaning that like it might start with Tom playing the guitar riff, and then like Nick would twist it in the kind of style of drum beat he'll be playing, and then I would twist it in the kind of style of bass line I'll be playing, and then the final twist is Flo's twist. So it kind of gets twisted so many ways. It never kind of it's very rare where I think it never happens that the initial kind of vibe of a song translates all the way to the end.
Yeah, it's true.
It's one it keeps you on your toes a lot. It makes it fun as a listener while in those moments as well, because you never know how someone's going to change what you're doing.
are you coming into a writing session with some stuff you've worked on, Tom and Lewis, like stuff you've worked on separately, or it's just all generated in the room?
I suppose if anyone tends to do that, it probably is me, because I find it's easier to write on a guitar, isn't it? So I might have some riffs and stuff like that. But at best, they will only be like a riff and then into another riff and back out again, sort of thing. It won't be a song. When I like it the best, it's when like if I play something and Lewis just plays something completely different that works with it straight away. We've got a song called Grass that's not on the album that's going to come out after the album. Remember, he played a bass line to that like straight away, and I was like, "What the fuck?" That's kind of what you're looking for, is when everyone just does something, you're like, "What the fuck?"
There's such a huge like trust element within the four of us of everyone's allowed to really go in their own direction quite far, and it really kind of helps. I won't think about what I'm playing. I'll just play like quite freely, and it's really rewarding. The main difference for me about dry cleaning compared to past projects is a lot of times you'd write a song based on what felt good at the time. So you'd be like, this is a fun riff to play, or yeah, that's kind of like that feels good right now. But with dry cleaning, it's kind of the opposite. We'll kind of just jam and jam and jam and jam. And then a week later, a day later, a month later, a year later, you listen back and it's about kind of what sounds good. You never trust how you feel about it at the time, because sometimes you'll leave a rehearsal room being like, nothing happened then. It's okay, nothing happened. And then 2 weeks later, a month later, you realize there was like 4 songs from that day that you kind of will take further. And I always call it fishing. You kind of just like sat there, just waiting for like an idea to come. Could be a great idea, could be bad, but just waiting for ideas to come. It's a very productive and healthy way to be creating.
And Flo, for you, when these words are coming out stream of consciousness style, and so afterward, after you look at what you've laid down, I mean, do you sort of go like, where did that come from? Or sometimes does it seem like, oh, that was something I had been thinking about. I had been sort of chewing on some of that concept, or there's a turn of phrase that was a linchpin in that.
Yeah, always. It's always that feeling. Oftentimes I get really kind of into the weeds about the writing, and I'm pretty much always, if not editing, considering editing until about 10 minutes before I record the vocal. I'm still going, don't know about that bit, whatever, it's never done in a way. because I always feel like it can be better all the time or more efficient at doing what I'm trying to do or reaching the mood or the emotion via a more direct route if I change this or move this. Like I'm kind of become really, really obsessed in it in like a really annoying way by all of that right up until the last minute. So often when I listen back, it does just sound like somebody else. I can hear that I'm like proper like possessed. I can hear that I've turned into a freak. Like it doesn't, I can't immediately connect to who that is. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like I'm always in the middle of like a hurricane of like thoughts. Like, and I don't mean that in a kind of cool, dramatic way. I mean it in almost like a slightly pathetic way, like just being so obsessed with the minutiae of something that yeah, sometimes when I hear the tracks, I'm like, who the fuck is that? Like that person sounds like me, but some weird version of me, some incredibly preoccupied, incredibly kind of, yeah, to know, possessed by something person. So sometimes that is a weird sensation. And, but in that way, always easier to hear what songs are about later for that reason, because it does sound like listening to somebody else a lot of the time. And I do hear like weird connections in songs that were unintentional, or well, I didn't say out loud, or I didn't write down that that was my plan or whatever to have this linked to this. And but I see those things later, and that always feels good. That always feels like, okay, I was kind of channeling well there, because there are all these other links that have sort of happened on their own, or it feels like they've happened on their own because I was so kind of like in it. and
Yeah.
that's a good feeling. That's always like, okay, yeah, cool. That's something. That always feels good.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine like it ends up being some of the, tiny details that probably seem kind of the most random or whatever that are like, what's the line? I wrote this down. I'm waiting inside a talcum powder box for you to lift the lid and discover me. Like is like one of the lyrics that I just like every time I'm listening to Secret Love and I hear that, I'm just like, oh yeah, what is it about that? There's something so like something about it, which I can't even articulate, but it's just like what the fuck, but also yeah, absolutely.
Mm. Well, it's a multitude of things, isn't it? Because I mean, a lot of them will be really personal. Like I'm thinking of a specific box. My mum used to have this Moschino talcum powder thing that was a big golden heart with like a pink fluffy powder puff inside it, which I was like completely obsessed by when I was a child. And it smelled amazing. And she would put it on herself after a bath, and it was just like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. And but then of course like talcum powder is like massively, turns out it's massively toxic. And so like I'm always attracted to anything that has like a like that, just any kind of dual memory or feeling attached to it, like a sweet memory being destroyed or even like made slightly rarer or spicier because of some information that was found out later, or you know what I mean? Like I just love little things like that. And other people aren't going to know about this talcum powder that I'm thinking of. But I think you just also have to trust, like, feel like people are going to feel it though. I don't have to tell them. I feel like they're going to feel it. and
Yeah.
and even if that's just kind of nonsense, I think part of like it is important to have that faith when you're making something, that you don't have to dumb everything down and you don't have to explain absolutely everything to the audience. I do feel like people pick things up, whether it's the way you say it or something, that you're only saying it in that way because you are thinking of this very personal thing. Feel like people get it still. And that's a really satisfying thing. Like you have to have a lot of faith in the audience, and like believe in just the perceptiveness of the audience, and include those things, even if they seem, oh, this is random, even if they seem like no one's gonna know that. but they kind of do know it somehow. I don't know, it's like magical.
It's really true. I feel like we talk about trust a lot amongst the four of us, but you learn to trust the audience more. And we've definitely realized that with like recent interviews and journalists just understanding like different levels, different kinds of communication across the record, and how audience seem to understand it and kind of what people say to you. I feel like we've definitely learned to trust. I remember John Parrish, who did the first two records, told us to like trust the audience, and you kind of that is bringing more true as time goes on.
Yeah, it's amazing the way sometimes the more specific you allow yourself to be, the more universal like something becomes, is that because it's truer, it's authentic, and that's ultimately what people connect with.
Yeah, I really feel that more and more all the time, as Lewis says. Yeah, it's only truer over time.
Well, I think that brings us to the end, y'all.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having us.
Very much like a therapy session.
Yeah. Yeah, blowing out some cobwebs.
I really enjoyed that conversation. Thanks again to Flo, Nick, Tom, and Lewis. And Dry Cleaning will be on tour extensively this spring. They get to North America at the beginning of May. You can get tickets at drycleaningband.com. And thank you for listening to the LSQ podcast. Find earlier episodes on podcast platforms and at jennylsq.com. Find me on socials, including Blue Sky, TikTok, and Instagram at jennylsq. And by email, I'm lsqpod@gmail.com.